So, you know how to feather your model, but what about wet blending? Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, another back to basics video for you, and in this one I want to have a chat about wet blending. Arguably this is one of the hardest techniques to master. However, this video is aimed for beginners, so hopefully it's really useful to you. And yeah, let's have a look at wet blending. Right, so let's have a look at wet blending. Now in this video I am going to do some wet blending on the camera, but first of all I want to have a chat about it. This series, as I always say, is aimed for beginners, and as a beginner watching this, I can totally understand where you're coming from if you've never tried to wet blend before, or maybe you've had a go and not been successful, because I've been there and I've done that. It's only over the last few years that I've been able to wet blend myself. So probably just like you're doing now, you've been watching some videos, you'll be seeing how on the camera it looks really easy. It looks very simple to wet blend, and then you go and you try it yourself and it's a disaster. And I've been there, I've done that. I've been very frustrated with some of my attempts at wet blending, particularly say on my fire prism, the crystal, when I tried to wet blend that from a light blue to a dark blue. Got really frustrated with it, and in the end I resolved that I just couldn't do it. And what I did is I painted layers instead. We've talked about layers in the layering video. A few years later, once I'd gradually got better at painting, and then I felt that I was able to wet blend, I have a video on it actually where I went back in and I revisited that fire prism, and actually then I wet blended it and improved the quality of it. So it's one of those things, I think it's just going to be a bit of practice for you, and if you've got some test models around, that's the best way to do it. Just prime up a little test piece of plastic, put down a base coat, and then practice wet blending. Now, having said that, you don't have to know how to wet blend. I just want to bring in an example of something just to explain exactly what I'm talking about. So, just going to bring in this guy here, my avatar. Just try and get that into the camera. Okay, so you see this spear? I have to say I'm really happy with that spear. I think it looks awesome, and I've got some sort of glow effects also on his hand, on the hand there, to make it look as if he's got really hot hand. This is obviously the avatar. So how did I get that effect? Well, that's dry brushing. I actually dry brushed that, and as you can see I've got this really lovely blend all the way from white, a lighter yellow, into an orangey yellow, then into an orange, then into a red, and then into a reddy black. And that was all done just by dry brushing, starting off with the base colour of red, so basically coloured this red, and then increased the colour on the brush, making it lighter and lighter, and just gradually dry brushing it up all the way up till right on the tip I was just dry brushing it with a tiny little bit of white. Not much paint on the brush, just gradually building it up. And I think this here proves and shows you that you don't necessarily need to know how to wet blend to get some awesome results. So don't get too frustrated, don't get too hung up on being fantastic at wet blending. It is a technique, however, which it's worth practicing with, and over time you will get there, just like I did. So let me just show you one of my wet blending examples. So I'm just going to pull this guy out and bring this guy in. Let me pick him up. So on his shoulder pad there, that is wet blended. Now we've covered layering, we've also covered feathering. So obviously layering is like the easiest and less nice looking, let's say, technique. Feathering really helps bring that blend together, and then wet blending is sort of almost like it's not the ultimate way of doing things, but it's certainly the next step up from feathering. The ultimate way is going to be glazing, which we're going to talk about in the next video. But yeah, on this one, this is wet blended from this rather bright pink. Hopefully it's picking up on the camera. We've got a nice bright pink at the top. Goes down to a medium pink there in the middle, and then underneath I've got like a dark pink. Hopefully it's picking it up on the camera. And then the grey armour on my Space Wolves is also, it's actually a combination of glazing and blending, wet blending. So I can certainly tell that my technique's obviously improved over the years, but that's not because I've just picked up the brush and started wet blending. That's because I've put a lot of hours into practicing it. So ultimately what I'm telling you here is don't get too hung up on wet blending, but just have a go. And I'm going to demonstrate now how to do the wet blend, and then hopefully I can demonstrate it in a nice easy way that when it comes time to you practicing your wet blending, it's going to be a little bit easier for you. Okay, so let's go to set up the paint station and we'll have a look at this. Okay, so on our Imperial Fist, I haven't got too much left to paint, but what I do have left to paint, which I've saved for this particular video, is the red trim on the shoulder pad. So I'm going to wet blend some highlights onto that. I'm going to use exactly the same paints as I used on the little Aquila thing on his chest there. So I've got my wet palette, and once again I've got the Methyston red. I've got on this side here Wild Rider red, and in the middle a 50-50 mix. Now rather than putting in water, I have put in this stuff here, which we've previously talked about. So this is fluid retarder, and the idea of this, it works exactly the same as water, except it lets the paint stay wet for longer, which is particularly useful when you are doing wet blending. Doesn't mean you can't use water, you certainly can, but this just helps with the technique. Okay, so let's get to this. Right, so we have our marine. Now, as always, I find it quite difficult to paint on camera because it's not my usual painting position, but I will give it my best shot. So what we're going to do is we're going to first of all lay down the paint where we think the highlights and the transitions are going to be. So I'm actually going to start off by going in with this light colour, the lightest colour, and laying down that where I think it's going to end up being. So in this case it's going to be just in the corner here. So I'm just going to lay down this light colour. I'm then going to lay down the middle colour, so that's the medium light colour. That one with the two mixes together. I'm just going to lay that down just there. Not actually blending anything at the moment, I'm just laying down the colours. And I'm going to lay down the base coat just here, just to give me an idea where all the paint's going to go. Okay, so I'm going to do that first of all on all of these shoulder pads here, just laying down those base colours. Okay, so I've laid down those base colours, one coat. Now because we've obviously got the liquid retarder in there, it takes a little bit longer to dry, so make sure it's dried before you do anything else. And B, because we're using nice thin paints, it's obviously best to do two coats, two thin layers. Basically I'm going to repeat exactly what I've just done. Okay, so that's the second layer done. You can see it's still drying, even that first little bit there, still drying. That's because we've got the retarder in there. So I'm going to absolutely make sure that's totally dry before I do the next stage. So at the moment we've done no blending at all. All we've done is basically put down the layers of where we want the blends to be. So I'm going to just let that fully dry and I'll be back and we'll do some more work. Okay, so I'm back and that is fully dry now. So now we're actually going to start to blend this. So let me just see if I can get a good angle for you. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go in with the middle colour, and I'm just going to lay that down in the middle area of where we want the highlight and the low light to be. I'm then going to go in with the highlight. I'm going to lay that down, and now I'm going to wipe the paint off of my brush, and I'm going to drag that colour in between the two colours, giving us a nice little transition. I'm also then going to go in with the base coat colour, just this end, and again I'm going to drag the two colours together. Now we can only do that because the paint is still wet, and it's still wet because we've got the retarder in there just keeping everything all nice and smooth. So now I'm going to go in and do the other edge. So again, I've got the middle coat, then the highest coat, and then the lowest coat. This is obviously quite a small area, so I'm using minimal paint. Now you can always find yourself going between the different layers, and that's the perfect thing why we have a wet palette, that we've always got the layers there on the palette. I'm going to do the side now, so middle coat in the middle area, and we've got the lightest one. Then just bring those colours together and just sort of mix them together, blend them together. And I'm going to go in with the lower colour at the bottom and just blend that all together. I'm going to go back in with the middle colour there because I went a bit too far up. And like I said, where this is all wet, this makes it really, really easy to apply and to manipulate while it's still on the model. Okay, let's go over to this shoulder pad. So middle colour, put the lightest one down, bring it up to the join, and then just feather that join in. We already know about feathering. It's a very similar technique. And then the base coat at the end. What we're doing is basically taking out any harsh joins, and we're getting a nice blend from light to dark colours. So again, the middle colour and the lightest colour. Blend them together. And then on the other side, the dark colour, the base coat colour effectively. And then blend that through. There you go. We're going to let that dry and have a look at it. Okay, so that is fully dry now. And what you'll notice also when you're doing wet blending is very often you'll have to do more than one layer. So let's have another go and see if we can start building up this layer. Now it does depend also which colour you're using, because some colours will be easier to blend, will need more coats than others. Red is a fairly easy colour to blend, to be fair, so shouldn't be too many issues with this particular colour. The technique is just the same. So we're going to again put this medium colour down. Going to put down our lightest colour, and then we're going to mix those two together. Okay, this is looking pretty good. What I have noticed is on this shoulder pad, it's pretty obvious that there would actually be a pointed light just on here. So I'm going to add some more blending just on this top section. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to, rather than just laying down the different layers like we did at the beginning of this video, which is a great place to start, I'm literally just going to go straight in. I'm just going to blend it all in one go. So let me just show you that. So first of all, I'm going to put in a medium colour. So this is the medium lightness. I'm then going to go in with the lightest one just on the top here, and I'm going to feather that through. Medium one, and then the darkest one just to finish it off. So we've got 2 points of light hitting it here now. We've got the edge down the bottom and the one at the top. I'm just going to let that dry and then I'll go back in and rejiggle it. Okay, so that's dry and it's looking pretty good actually. I'm just going to go in and just jiggle that just one more time. This time I'm going to start off with the highest highlight just in the middle area, because now we've got like a nice transition there. And then I'm going to use the middle coat. And then the little dark coat just at the bottom there. Going back to the middle coat, and as you can see, effectively all we're really doing is pushing paint around. Right, there you go. That is the shoulder pad, wet blended and highlighted, and looking pretty good. So I'm happy with that. What I'm going to do is link up another video. It's called How to Paint Pink. And in that video, yes, I'm showing you how to paint pink, but ultimately at the end of it I'm going to be doing some wet blending. So if you want to see me do some more wet blending on a slightly bigger area, then go and check that video out. Like I said, I'll put a link in the description below. I'll also add it on the end of this video as well. So that's it for this video. I really hope that it was useful to you. As I said, the key thing, don't get stressed about it. Just do it on test models, gradually get used to it. It will happen one day, it will just click and you'll be able to do it. Okay, that's it from me. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.